This podcast is brought to you by Firehouse Subs, the firefighter-founded hot sub chain with a passion for hearty and flavorful food, heartfelt service, and public safety. Ready for your next mission? Firehouse Subs is offering firefighters the opportunity to continue serving after service, now as restaurant owners. Learn more at firehousesubsfranchising.com.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of everyone's favorite podcast, favorite radio show. It's the Larry Conley Radio Show. And today we have with us, of course, the special, well, it's kind of the usual. We always have him. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. You know him, you love him. It's Larry Conley. Mm-hmm. What's up, Larry?
What's happening? Another exciting episode of the show. And brothers from other mothers, you know, but we likely didn't come from your mother, but from my own mom, you know, and mom's a little under the weather now, so just get us two handsome guys doing the show for you. But nonetheless, it's been a great 2025 so far, despite the challenges that I'm sure we all gone through. Been do a few things personally myself lately, but nothing I'm still not blessed about, to still be on this earth and still be part of the great profession we call the American Fire Service. And the great celebration of that just happened a few weeks ago. David and I, fresh off FDIC, the Fire Department's Instructors Conference that happens every year in beautiful downtown Indianapolis, Indiana. And with that being said, it was a great time. They had it around the 1st of April, and I knew it was going to be a little chilly, and it was, you know. But nonetheless, it was a great time. And if you're a firefighter, you know, the weather doesn't bother you. I talk about it all the time as the weather being, you know, me being a tropical brother, I definitely like warm weather. Right. However, you got to make your own weather, as I once read somewhere. And me making my own weather frees me up to be to rock and roll in any situation. And as a firefighter, you do. I mean, no matter where you work, you can dictate the weather, but you do have to stay true to the course of saving life and property, no matter what the weather is. So that's a metaphor for life, in my opinion, that no matter what the weather is, you still got to take care of business. And that's what a lot of the lessons we learned at FDIC, a lot of great classes. I think it was a record 37,000 this time, and usually it's over 35, close to 36. So a lot of hungry American firefighters that want to get this job done and want to learn how to do it with the most cutting edge information out there. Not to mention, you don't only get to go to FDIC and sit in some great lectures and things like that sort. But the hot classes, the first 2 days of FDIC are always outstanding. Just imagine the logistics of putting it all together. And kudos to the Indianapolis Fire Department and their stakeholders in helping put those events together. We had a great interview. If you check out the archive of the show, we did live from FDIC, and we had a great time talking to Chief Malone about about what it takes just to take that on. You know, every year you're not just the fire chief of Indianapolis, but you got to be the fire chief for FDIC. And the way we discussed too, FDIC is not the only convention that comes. Indianapolis is a crossroads for a lot of conventions in America. You talk about things like the Indianapolis 500, or, you know, the NCAA basketball is stationed there, and just countless other things that they have to accommodate for. So kudos to the Indianapolis Fire Department for not only doing their job of protecting the citizens of Indianapolis, but also
hosting some great events.
Holding some great events. And of course, we feel like FDIC is the greatest event they hold. You know, we shut the city down. Everything is FDIC this. You got big posters. You got it's a great time, and I look forward to it every year. And this year was no exception of the greatness. And we had a great time networking and had a lot of old friends we caught up with, and definitely made a lot of new friends. And the good thing about this year, I got to hang out a lot better because what? Uncle Larry didn't have homework this year, so I was able to, since I got that master's thing behind me, I was able to really hang out, have a good time. And so with that being the case, hanging out, having a good time, in addition to, I said that backwards. I was there to teach and learn, and in addition, had a good time. I don't want to sound like it's a big party and the byproduct is go to classes. No, go to classes, learn what you need to learn so you can take it back and make your fire service better. But at the same token, understand that the network and those. And I'm going to tell you this, another thing that's more valuable than even going to classes. If you are hanging out and socializing, going to these socials and things like that, some of the best nuggets, unscripted nuggets, if you will, or are found out there, where sometimes you learn stuff more valuable than you could in class because people don't have presentation armor on. They're just letting you down, and you talking, and you getting these great nuggets. And always listen for that. What are the great nuggets that some of these people are talking about that's unscripted? And you learn a lot about people when they talk unscripted. Sometimes you learn what you were saying in there was one thing, but who you are is something else. And that's something we talked about well. But when you find people who are genuinely consistent, like with the nuggets along with their teaching, and even if they weren't there to teach, sometimes, most of the time, the teachers aren't the ones to give you the best lessons. Sometimes they're as participants, as attendees, but they're there to network and pass on nuggets as well. So FDIC has these unscripted, if you will, opportunities to learn and get more than what you paid for. And it gets overlooked and not talked about enough. So when you go, don't just go to classes and don't just hang out with just your circle. You know, to meet other people. You get this advice coming from an introvert who is not always good at saying, "Hi, I'm Larry Conley." Same token, I do understand the value of it. But every week and time, or however many days you choose to be at FDIC, when you take those opportunities to kind of meet somebody you've never met before, or do some networking with some people that you've never networked with before, that can be more valuable than the classes that you paid for, because that's the end of it. So you can't put a price on that. So when people say it's expensive, yes, it is. It can be costly. But if you plan now, you can make time for that next year. While we're on the subject, I want to let you know that FDIC for 2026 is going to be, I wrote it, the April 20th through the 25th. I wouldn't know, but each year they move it around the Aprils, and depending on
if you're guessing,
if you're guessing, but it's mainly always in April. So, except when David and I did the keynote in 21, it was in August. That was during the COVID time, but that was the only time it was special. They said, "These guys, we need to do some extra preparation, so we can't do it in April. We're going to move it 4 months down the line because this is going to be a big deal." No, but seriously, that was
LD, I see.
Yeah. But anyway, April 20th through the 25th, 2026, downtown Indianapolis again. And also, keep in mind, I might mention this later before we wrap up, but right now, understand that the call for presentations are active right now. You can submit your presentation, submit something that's your voice, submit something that you research, submit something that you're expert in. And because we all want to hear about it, we all want to know what you have to say, what your contribution to our great American fire service training can be. And the big stage and the premier stage to do it is the FDIC. Now, if I were you, I would already have the idea, and I would be finding opportunities to present it locally or your state level or other places so you can find out how well your message resonates. Because by the time you get to the big stage, we want you to shine, we want you to rock, and we don't want it to be totally a brand new ideal that you're trying out on FDIC, because that's a that can be a big gamble. You rise and fall with an experimental thing that maybe you know about, maybe you don't. But if you know what you're talking about, you got a great submission. And we all look at it, because I'm on the education committee, and we always look at it and figure it's a great message that people need to hear, they can grow from, they can learn from. We want those type of presentations. But just a hint, don't be brand new about it and throw something together on June, because the deadline is June 16th by 9 p.m. Eastern time that you need to have it turned in. So don't wake up June 15th, and say, let me just throw something together and submit it. Likely with the experts who are reviewing your class may not, we're going to snuff it out and realize that maybe it isn't your best work. And so submit your best work. You got plenty of time to do it, but get it in. We start reviewing them. I get a ton of submissions across my desk that I have to review, and other people on the board as well. And then we collaborate about them at a joint meeting in person and determine who's coming. And then somewhere in August, you get your Christmas in August bonus, to where you got admitted, your submission got approved, or in some cases, unfortunately, it didn't. And sometimes that does not mean it wasn't a good submission. Sometimes it just means that we have a lot in that category, and the algorithm that Chief Rhodes and Diane and the rest of the gang use to make sure that FDIC has a complete cadre of things that people can apply, sign up for. We can't have a FDIC with all leadership classes. We can't have a FDIC with all mental health classes. We can't have a FDIC with all fire ground tactics classes, or anything else that's a popular topic. We can't have a FDIC that's so full of that and very little. So there's a balance in that, making sure that there's enough topics in every topic, or everything that makes for a complete learning experience at FDIC. So don't think it's always as cut and dry as my presentation was not good enough. It just made based on where we need to put everything, it was a tough toss up between yours and somebody else's. And sometimes you win and sometimes you don't on those submissions, but keep submitting. That's all I can encourage you to do. Keep submitting. It's like the lottery. You got to be in it to win it. So make sure you, and FDIC, I can tell you from a board standpoint, we're always looking for the fresh new voice on things. Now, one thing we're not looking for is, don't come up with what you consider the latest fad that will fizzle out, that's hot today and cold tomorrow, or something along those lines. Make sure that your submission has a tried and true, I guess, I won't say angle, but tried and true at its foundation. So it could be something that firefighters can use now and for years to come, And maybe it's a same topic that we've been dealing with for years, but you found a way that works for you based on your experience. You found a way that works for you that the rest of us need to hear about, because it's a successful look at things. That's why they call it a practice in a lot of professions, because we never stop learning. We never stop perfecting. We don't just settle on, that's the way we've always done it. That's dangerous. But we don't want, hey kids, this is a brand new way to do something, but it just sounds good because it's got a cool acronym or something to it. Don't do that, because we don't want fluff. We want good stuff. We don't want fluff, So with all that being said, submit your presentations no later than June 16th, 9 p.m. Eastern time, which means if you live in the Midwest, that's 8 p.m. If you live out west, well, that's 6 p.m. So, yeah. So I think I got my stuff right. But in case I don't
it's that master's degree kicking in.
Yeah. I'll be like, well, Larry told us, hey, look up your time zone. Get it right. Don't blame Uncle L for your mistake. Get it in. Number one, don't wait till the 16th to get it in. Do it today. It's Saturday. It's the weekend, or it's Sunday, or you after church, or it's Monday after you watch the podcast. Get it in. Get your stuff in. So we can continue to recycle some of these great ideas that can come in and help make us all better firefighters. Because David has heard me say this before. I love presenting. I love teaching. I love the aha moment people get when we teach. But what I love even more is sitting in people's classes or participating hands-on in people's classes and learning something. They're like, wow, after all these, better way to do it. That's a way to look at it. And so I love that aha moment for me having it, as well as I love being part of giving the aha moment. So with all that being said, we need to hear your voice. And we hear your voice. It's going to make for a better FDIC going forward. But like I said, practice it at home first. Do it in front of do it with if you've never done this presentation before, do it with your department. Do it at the state level. Find other conferences before you get to FDIC to submit that and present it. Get your confidence up. Get your sea legs going. And once you do that, by the time you come to FDIC, you'll be rocking and rolling, and you can pack the room and be the next voice going forward. So that's my little, Uncle Larry likes to do a soapbox before we get started with the show. So that's my little soapbox about the FDIC.
Sponsored by Borax.
Right. So, coming off, we had a great time. I taught my class tightrope. Me and my partner in crime, David, here, and we taught tightrope, the art of efficient and effective leadership, walking that tightrope. So we'll talk about a little bit about that, with the details about that, and what kind of response we got. We actually taught it at the Women in Fire. We were honored to teach it at their conference at the beginning of FDIC. I think it was that Tuesday of FDIC, and then was able to teach again on Friday for our classroom. And then Tuesday afternoon, David's class, All In, talking about team building and things that we had that class for the 4 hour, and that was well received as well. So we'll kind of recap those a little bit, recap some of the highlights for FDIC 2025 and look forward to FDIC 2026. So how did you think it went, David?
I think it went really well. I think there have been some responses even that would suggest that people got, a lot out of it, a lot out of all the classes. We were, very busy, doing something almost every day. So just, it was almost like a road show for us in one facility. But I thought there's a lot of good interaction. I always like it when people are responding and, giving good discussion and feedback to some of the points that we're bringing up and the exercises and things like that. So I thought a lot of that went very good. We had some very energetic groups and some kind of thought-provoking points of view coming forward, which is always good and always a good place for us to learn as well as teach, so that's crucial. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One thing I like about when we teach it the way we do is because being a participant and having to actively participate in you just don't get a slideshow with us. You just don't get you sit death by slideshow. The slides are, of course, the background needed for making points and things like that. But the real fun is your participation and how that's designed for you to participate. And so it lets you walk away with some actionable steps because you had kind of got your hands dirty with the lecture instead of sitting there and just listen to us lecture the whole time. So I really like that part of it because we become partners in that dance in the whole presentation. And when we become partners in that type of dance with that presentation, everybody's accountable. And if everybody's accountable, you can't sit up there and say, well, all they did was lecture the whole time and I was trying to stay awake doing it. You're going to be involved. We're going to get you involved, and we're going to get you involved either as a participant where you have to come up in front of everybody and work with David and I on some of these scenarios, or when we break it down in groups and then you have to come up with strategies and stuff to master and meet what the topic of the presentations are. And so I love the interactive part of it. We kind of like attribute to like a hot class in the lecture room. So, you know,
very engaging in that way. And I think learning is better once you kind of activate it.
Exactly. It's hands on, or it might be mind on. I don't know. Probably you got a hot training, maybe you got my training. I don't know. I'm just making it up as I go along. But however, we always have a great time with that type of exchange. And I'm going to tell you, being the kind of person who's been in a lot of lectures over the years in the fire service, and whether you talk about leadership or anything else, I was, a lot of times I really enjoyed the content, but maybe the content was presented in a way that, that the mundaneness or the monotone part of it, almost put you to sleep, you know. And, so that being the case, I wanted to make sure when we designed the way we do things, it was very active, very participatory. And then of course you get the bonus of David and I's corny jokes. I mean, we practice
right there. That's worth the price right there.
The price of admission. You don't even, you know, you don't pay extra for the jokes. And so
not at all.
I mean,
the presentation, and that's a state rule.
The presentation ain't no joke, but nonetheless, you know, it keeps some levity in the whole situation, you know. So, but tightrope, one thing, that my revelation about tightrope, and we're going to do a version of that next year, but it won't be exactly like, people witnessed this year. We got some improvements, took some notes, based on some of the feedback we got, and not to mention some of the revelations that we continue to get. So we're always trying to improve what we did, but the topic or the basis of tightrope will not change because it is an ongoing topic to understand as you ascend to these different responsibilities, greater responsibilities in the fire service. And even if you don't aspire to be, you still walk a tightrope between what you do professionally and what you do privately. And personally, and those things, you can't let one spill over you. If you mismanage your private and you fall off the tightrope that way, then that's not good. And if you or mismanage your professional, that can affect your private because now you might get fired or your name gets tainted in a way that you won't be working this town again as a firefighter. So that's a tightrope in that regard. So we're going to be really delving into more topics that the tightrope can affect, and understand that we all are walking it. But how confident and how successful you are depends on the revelations and training. We feel like we have a voice in that can really help you out because David and I still walk that period. And even though I'm semi-retired, so to speak, I still have to walk that same tightrope in my life. And if I don't walk successfully and fall off the tightrope, that can be
catastrophic sometimes.
Yeah. So you got to be careful with it. And it's not easy to do. I think everybody in life is walking some type of tightrope. And the reason I bring that up, and we'll talk about this probably on our next show in more detail. We got another show planned that's going to really address this issue. But But just to give you a little preview, there are at least 3 in the past 2 months of deaths that were, in my opinion, premature. I'm not going to get that deep into all of it, but I think you know what I'm talking about as far as they were untimely. They were deaths that didn't maybe have to happen. I don't walk in people's shoes, so I don't know what leads them to make these decisions. But obviously, there was a sense of hopelessness that led to the untimely deaths. And untimely deaths was somewhere there was an imbalance on that tightrope. And with the imbalance on that tightrope, unfortunately, some permanent decisions were made. And I'm not here to judge, criticize, because as the old people used to say when I was growing up, and now I'm old, but by the grace of God, there go I. So nobody is protected from making some decisions that if somebody was to ask you logically, would you do this? And they'll say, no, I wouldn't do that until it does happen, So, but my point is, when you mismatch that tightrope, something like that can happen to you, along with maybe you just do something that when you're living, and in your living, you feel dead in your living. You're just waiting to be. So we want you to master that tightrope. And like I said, under that topic, David and I are in discussion about different details we can put over it. So it might under it. So it may not be entirely based on you're trying to manage being promoted in your department. We might we got some ideas that we will put under that tightrope title or the tightrope umbrella that will help you manage yourself from the first day on the job all the way up to, and then that way by the time you get to be a certified bona fide leader in your organization, you already equipped with the quality traits it takes to lead that department with integrity, lead it with wisdom, make decisive decisions, and know how to balance your personal private life with your professional life, and do that with some integrity, and be an example for your family, be an example for your department, be an example for your community. And when you got all of those on the right perspective, that balance, using what we call the empower model, then that tightrope is a lot easier to walk. When people show up at the circus and watch you walk it, they'll say, man, that person got it going on, that chief or that father, that community member, that neighbor, they somebody you want to follow because of how well they walk that tightrope. So look forward, look for the future, that more topics that we feel like can fit under that tightrope. Look for more topics that's going to help you make you a whole person, because David and I are always primarily interested in this because we do it for ourselves all the time. And it's not easy. Let me be in full transparency saying that it's not always easy. We teach this stuff, but we have to, thank God that some of the stuff we teach and some of the mentors I've had and still have, I make myself accountable to using this guide as kind of a lighthouse, if you will. You're out on the ocean life and the ebbs and flow and the storms that come. But when you can see that lighthouse and understand that there's still hope, then that's what we picture the empower model as being, is that lighthouse that we can say no matter how many turns and all that, we can follow that lighthouse or that North Star or whatever your metaphor for you not being in total darkness or being totally lost. And that's what we really try to address. We consider it a ministry and a mission at the same time. And because when we do it like that, we feel like that we can help you tackle anything that you encounter in the fire service. But we got to start with you being a solid, grounded, good person in the first place. Not a flawless person, not a perfect person, but somebody who can look at life and understand that through the ebbs and flows and through the everything you go through, you are still in control of your responsibility, your reaction, your proactivity that helps maybe reduce some of the stuff that you have to go through, your initiatives, your leading with your own life, your practice of leading your own life with integrity. And when you lead your own life with integrity, it's not a far stretch to do that at the firehouse or in the headquarters, in your agency. But when that's compromised in your personal life, when that's compromised, then you might have a struggle doing it when it matters. And I can attack to like when we are doing training. If you ask the average firefighter, do you think it's stupid to train? They're gonna look at you stupid. Yeah, you got to train. Well, why do you train? So we'll be ready when the bell hits. So you're simulating the potential of possibility of things that could happen. And you simulating that and getting that as almost as a reflex. So you'll be ready when the bell hits. Okay. So let's stay on that. That's how you feel about it. And that's okay. That's how you should feel about it. I'm not criticizing. That's how you should feel. Well, then to me, that on that same parallel, that's how our lives should be. We practice integrity when nobody's looking, and we practice discipline when nobody's looking. We practice self-discipline. We practice self-integrity. We practice great decision making when nobody's looking. That way, when the bell hits at your job or anywhere else that this needs to be tested, just like with the training, you're ready to go. A lot of times this gets overlooked because we think it's two different things. We think that we can be not so good individuals. We don't have to have any integrity or anything. We don't have to have self-discipline. We don't have to have great self-leadership, personal leadership. But when the bell hits, we'll be able to respond, with integrity and all that kind of stuff. And I'm telling you, more and more people are finding out that you can't just, make that connection all of a sudden. That's why you see the media is reporting stuff faster than ever these days about, different nefarious practices of firefighters, fire chiefs, and everybody in between, company officers, because they thought, they thought I can operate over here with a whole lot less integrity, but then in a job, our profession is high on integrity, high on it. I mean, we the most trusted people. That we come in your house in your most private dwellings for, whether it's an EMS run or whether it's a fire, and we're trusted to handle that sensitive situation with the highest integrity. You're gonna get found out if you don't do it, your personal stuff with the highest integrity. Yeah, I'm not saying that as an expert on it. I'm saying it's an everyday practice. I'm not trying to separate like, Uncle Larry has the highest integrity ever. I have to get up and make sure that happens. And the more habit I do with it, then it gets easier. By the time I get comfortable with it, just like anything else, you can get too comfortable with stuff, think you got it down, and then realize that, let's say you was the kind of person who exercised a lot. And you were strong, you could lift a house without even thinking about it. And you say, okay, well, I got that down pat, and you stop exercising, you stop working out, you stop whatever. Now you got to lift a house one day to, for whatever, you got to do it. And then you realize, I can't lift the house anymore. Why? Because you got comfortable in thinking, I'm strong enough. You still got to do it. You still got to work those muscles, those integrity muscles. You still got to work those personal leadership muscles. You still got to work those personal accountability muscles. And when you do, then you're ready for whatever the unknown, because we don't show up at the firehouse knowing what the next step is going to be. We don't show up at the firehouse knowing what the next run is going to be. Your integrity might be as simple as making sure that $2,000 you saw on the table stays on the table when you doing a medical run with Miss McGillicuddy, or it may require you to get in that house and before the line gets deployed, make that grab because lives are on the line. And the hero music and all that kicked in. Why? Because your integrity was at its highest it can be. And it's maintained that way because you're always feeding it. You can't starve it. You can't starve your integrity. You can't starve your personal leadership. You can't starve any of that. But you got to be a great person first, and you got to work that system because we are in a high trusted, high integrity business. We're not in the business strictly of I fight fires. You're strictly in the business of taking care of people. You're in the business of trust. You're in the business of integrity. You're in the business of personal leadership. You're in the business of being decisive. You're in the business of all that. Practice that on your downtime in places where it doesn't seem to matter. And then you'll be ready, just like with training. You'll be ready for it when the bell hits for some of these professional decisions that you got to make.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times I think we think in terms of one big event to the next big event. Like you think you do certain things, or like you're talking about training, you train for the big event, you train for the big emergency, the big fire, the big, medical emergency or whatever. But the things that are called to bear when you get to those things, and going back to what you were saying about people making permanent decisions for temporary issues or what have you, that it becomes a sort of erosion, like you were talking about, when you don't, practice that balance on just very mundane things, which is the hardest thing kind of about the model and about what we're teaching. Like it's easy to academically understand it. It's easy to think about applying it in, those, high visibility situations. But when we're talking about just your everyday decisions and building up, your resistance to falling off, increasing your balance, increasing your foot sensitivity and things like that, just on the everyday walk, it gets to be, a lot easier to do that balance when the rope gets shaky, So, I think it's just a matter of encouraging folks like you were doing to just think in terms of that as your default and as how you deal with, like we say all the time, every interaction, not just where you put on your empower model coat when you go to the firehouse or when you go to work or anywhere and take it off when you leave or whatever. It's not that. It's a thing that is transforming the person you are everywhere you are, because to be honest, you're a fire service professional wherever you are. If you're off duty and you're inside the grocery store and somebody has a medical emergency, you don't say, well, I hope the fire department or the EMS gets here in time because I got to get these avocados. You know what I mean? You jump into action and try to do what you were trained to do. It should be an instinct that happens with you, just period. You run up on the scene if somebody's had a car accident or something until, if you can provide some immediate assistance while the other folks are on the way, most folks who are trained would be, extremely tempted or comfortable to do that as opposed to waiting. But that's because you are that, first responder wherever you are. And so just like you're that, you need to also be that empowered first responder wherever you are. So practice that empower model, get that down pat, and start, getting that balance to be your everyday default.
Yeah, that's a good point about you are first responder 24/7, and some people take that a lot more serious than others. I think it should be a certain amount of serious you take. I think when you take that oath, you're saying that no matter what, I'm in the position. Your neighbors know who you are. They come knock on your door at 2 a.m. and say, I'm having a medical emergency with my loved one or whatever, bang on your door, my house is on fire, and my loved one is still in there. They'll expect you to say, well, hey, did you call the fire department?
You need my phone?
Yeah, I mean, what'd you bother me for? I don't go to duty until 5 hours from now,
Right.
You're going to do what you can. But even that's even more the reason why I'm making the point about the personal integrity, personal leadership, because unlike jobs where you kind of clock in and clock out, if you're at this grocery store, somebody say, you're an accountant, aren't you? Yeah. Can you add this up for me? No. I'm not sworn to help you. I'm an accountant at work on Monday, not today. Today,
somebody can't figure out their change. The change at the grocery store. You say, "Stand back, ma'am."
Right, that's not your problem. Stand back, ma'am. I'm an accountant. Yeah, so let me help you with that. So you just wouldn't do that. But as a first responder, you are. So as a first responder, whatever your area of expertise, there's a certain amount of expectation with you. But because we wear this armor 24/7, because if you just want to be totally removed from it, and that's your right to do it, I guess I can't tell somebody how all in to be with that. But first responders, on both of my cars, I have some type of fire department insignia on it. And over the years, I've been called a fire food. That's stupid, whatever. Okay, whatever. But that also says too that if something does jump off and somebody happens to spot me, number one, I have to spot myself, because I can't just frightfully drive past with the fire department sticker on your car. Boy, that looks bad. Oh, somebody gets there. You gotta pull over. That's the integrity of it. Unless I'm on my way to something which is a bigger emergency. One of my children is sick or something like that, and at that point, that's my, I'm not going to stop for that, maybe just because there's a bigger why in the equation. However, like David said, if I'm just going to the store to get avocados, the avocados can wait. Matter of fact, they can wait, because if I stand here and help these people with this emergency, then get the avocados later, it's going to be a better choice, because you already know with avocados, if you get them too fresh, they too hard, you can't do nothing with them.
Right.
You wait
so it's a win-win.
You can deal with them, but they're better for you. So see, there's an advantage for supporting
win-win. Absolutely.
So win-win. Get them avocados later after you done help the people on your way to the store. See, it's a little tip. These little tips that you just.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
These are the nuggets.
See how it all comes together,
These are the nuggets, people.
Right, these are the little nuggets I'm talking about. You wouldn't have known this unless you watched the podcast, that avocados are better after you help somebody, life get better with their car accident or something. So
write that down, people.
Right. Come on, people. You feel me? That's the tightrope right there. But seriously, when you put on that badge, when you wear that T-shirt, when you got that fire department, you got that American flag hanging out your house with the red stripe down the middle of it, you're stating, holler at your boy or holler at your girl, because I'm an emergency worker. I can help you 24/7. Otherwise, take all this stuff off your car, burn them shirts, and take that flag down. Because you don't want nobody to even remotely think who you are until you go to work with their uniform on.
But that's the unofficial contract that you have with the community. You know what I mean? That because they recognize and identify you as that should that need arise, whatever, whether you're at the firehouse or at your house, that you're going to jump into action to where they can count on you to do your best to, work with folks to mitigate that you're the professional, and so that's why people say, is there a doctor in the house? You know what I mean? If we're talking about physicians, even if a medical emergency arises, there's a sort of blind trust in it. As a community, we have for people who have a certain expertise in mitigating those emergencies. So that's why it's more incumbent on you to practice and hone that integrity you were talking about, that personal leadership you're talking about, so that you just are always in a state of readiness.
Mm-hmm. No, we
but even for yourself, what we were talking about
sure
earlier. Yeah, going back to that. So
yeah, no, definitely, and it's happened to me a few times. I can't tell you, when the kids were little, I stopped at a few accidents, that happened almost in front of us, and I stopped, and your kids stay in the car, or the family stay in the car, and you went out and at least did some initial assessments and tried to make things better until the emergency cadre showed up. What it wasn't happened to me at least 2 times I can remember. I think more than that is medical emergency. One time something happened on the flight and somebody laid their doctor in the house. I'm like, damn, I'm trying to sit here and enjoy my Tupac and my headphones and having a seizure, Right. It's your fault. But of course I took the headphones off. I'm not a doctor, but but I am an EMT. How can I help? And then there was a nurse. And the nurse was, she was a nurse, but she was an administrative nurse. She haven't really practiced in years, but we put our heads together and made accommodations and all that, and got a nice little gift certificate from Southwest Airlines and all that. So it was cool. I didn't do it for that. I did it because and I don't know if I had any fire department equipment on, or sometimes you wear a hat or whatever, but whether I had it on or not, I wasn't trying to front like that. I just couldn't in good conscience sit there knowing that I could do something and didn't. So you're always on. Now, here's the other thing, too. I was just thinking about this when you were talking. The reason your integrity has to be in place and your personal leadership has to be in place, too, is because let's say you do that off duty. There's an off duty emergency that you help handle, and you mess that up. Something that's within your wheelhouse, or maybe it's out of your wheelhouse, but you really goofed that up. You could be held liable even if you weren't on duty because you engaged. You see what I'm saying? So you engaged in a way that made the situation worse. Engaged and almost wishing you didn't say nothing in the first place, or do something in the first place. That could be detrimental. So that's why another reason your training and your integrity and all that in place, because on and off the job, you engage or you recognize as a subject matter expert. You can goof that up either way. If you goof it up either way, now we got even bigger issues that you have to deal with. So it's that's why I don't like. Sometimes when people say, oh, it's got to be a calling, it's got to be this. And I'm not always convinced that it always has to be. Sometimes I think you should just try to really do a really good job of whatever job it is. However, when people are totally like, I don't care about this job, I just care about the paycheck. I'm going to do a good enough job when I'm at the firehouse, but outside of that, I really don't care. I don't know if that's the best person for when I got some life or death stuff happening. Somebody needs to get in and don't care about their life and put their life on the line to make something happen. Some of the greatest rescues, I know a few rescues that were made in St. Louis. Some of the best awards have been given to people who were off duty. Driving down the street, saw some smoke, saw people running out. Somebody was still stuck in there, and they went in and got them out. They were disabled or whatever. They were off duty. Now, I'm not saying that's something that a lot of people would. There have been a lot of people who are not necessarily emergency workers who done some great things because it need to be done. But what did that say about them? Their integrity was in place. I'm not even trained for this, but I'm going to make the push to see if I can get the situation. So it doesn't have to be because you're an emergency worker. However, it heightens the awareness of it because you are. So, once again, we're talking about building great people from the ground up, and we will build great people, then we have less chances of mismanagement of integrity driven decisions when the bell hits. because you're already trained in being a great person. And being a great person is a constant practice you have to do every day. David and I talk about that in our class. It's a constant practice. So with that being said, those are the kind of takeaways you're going to have from any of the classes we do, from rescuing the leader inside of you, from the tightrope, from all in to, all the classes. Our officer development class that we're developing now is going to be, it's going to tell you all the stuff you need to be a great officer, and the training and all the bases that you should cover. But the main thing we're going to concentrate on is how can we make you better, so your personal foundation can handle the weight of this responsibility that you're aspiring to in the fire service. And Dave and I put that together, and then with a lot of it, they got I worked on a lot, and when I worked on a lot, I submitted a lot of those the ideals and put them in ideal form. Even it's my practicum for the master's degree, so it's been peer reviewed and all of that. So it's ready to go. We're putting it in presentation mode now, but nonetheless, that officer training program is going to be, it's not going to be your average officer training program. Your average officer training program, there are a lot of great ones out there. A lot of ones that are steeped in, now you got the badge, now what type of flavor to it. And as necessary and as great as those classes are, our voice is going to be adding to some of the great classes out there. It's like, well, how do we make sure that you are personally, mentally, physically, socially, spiritually ready to take this great responsibility on? What's your thoughts on that, David, based on what we've been working on?
It's actually foundational in that way. I think what happens with a lot of just leadership training, period, in the fire service is not immune to this, is that you end up stacking a lot of, great leadership principles and responsibility on top of the assumption that the foundation is solid, that they are people who have a solid sense of personal leadership and personal responsibility and vision, and those kinds of things that a great leader needs. And so a lot of what we're talking about is providing a solid foundation for you to then build all those other leadership things on top of. And so when you're able to do that, you form a more solid leadership paradigm. And I think that's the thing that makes our program and the stuff you would get from it a lot more valuable to anybody who's trying to advance or just be a better leader. Even if you don't necessarily advance in rank per se, you would be a stronger leader just because anything is stronger with a strong foundation. So I think a lot of times we're missing that when we promote people and when we bestow upon them the responsibility of leadership, of leading people, especially into life and death situations. If you do that without giving them that foundation, you're kind of setting yourself and them up for failure. So we're trying to impact that, mitigate that by bringing that strong foundation to bear. So,
yeah. So, if you're going to come to our class when we roll that out, which should be soon, in our officer development class, if you're interested in a program that's going to plant seeds of personal leadership, integrity, and address the greatness that we all have in that, along with the practical, practical expectations of a promoted officer, then this is going to be the class for you. It's very intense. It's very, and it's very interactive. It's not just sitting around talking about this, and this. You take a bunch of notes and get a certificate, and everybody gets a trophy, and you go home. You're going to be have some mental exercises that's going to really, address. Yeah, I got a good workout with that one. My mental is stronger than ever now because of what we went through. And we know that that's an important part of it. So that'll be our angle to contributing to the great programs that are out there already. That'll be our angle. So if you're looking for more of a holistic approach to your officer development programs, make sure you get us in front of your officers, and we can guarantee, based on what we know, the practices of what we've been doing with Glue, growing leaders using empowerment for about 15 years now, and we've seen the results and we've seen testimonies. Then we know that it's going to be something that your officers are going to walk out with, ready to lead your department into the future, and not only lead based on their example, but that example will lead people who are not necessarily eligible for it yet, but will be inspired and can't wait to do it. And you want us to come back to train them so we can make sure that they have all the tools they need. Because like I said, in a high integrity profession, industry like we have, we need to concentrate on that just as much as we concentrate on tactics and strategies. They're important, they're critical. We got tactics and strategies involved, but leading with integrity will be the foundational thing. So by the time you make those decisions, whether you're talking about fireground tactical strategies and tactics, whether you're talking about leadership around the firehouse, whether you're talking about leadership when it comes to that tightrope balance between your agency, people that have to answer to city council, mayor's office, whatever, and also be able to keep your agency motivated as well. All of these things are necessary, that if each company officer has that same training, or each chief officer, whatever officer you're aspiring to be, when you have all of that in place, you can pretty much know that you have a solid cadre of officers throughout throughout your organization. And having a solid cadre of officers throughout your organization, and knowing that there's a lot that increases trust, and that increases trust among the officers, that increases the trust among the subordinates and officers, that increases trust among people who manage your agency, be it your city government or whatever. They know that you live with integrity. And at the end of the day, leading with integrity, the way we're going to present it, is going to be the secret ingredient, if you will, that this, like when I think of stuff like that, I think visual. So I think of like a redwood tree or a solid oak tree, or these trees that have been standing for thousands of years, or hundreds of years, and through all the storms and through the winds of life, and through the erosion, and through all the changes on earth, and through all of that, these trees are still standing strong, and they rooted in deep foundational things. So they're not falling anytime soon. And so I kind of picture, when I do a visual, I picture it like that. We want you to be that redwood tree in your organization. That no matter what comes, whether it comes from something above you, something below you, or something on your same sphere of power, everybody's standing strong, and you do that. I've been on a lot of accidents where the car hit a tree, And the tree was like, I'm good, but the car is toast, and so the tree don't move. It's still there. I might got a little nick in it from the car accident, but the tree ain't go nowhere. So that's how your standard of who you are should be. No matter what hits you, you still standing. But if you don't do that homework or those little things, I'm reading this book now, and the author Darren Hardy says that the little things that you do every day that don't seem to matter, or the thing build you up to that compound success or that exponential success against people who think that I'm just waiting for the big score. If you was to watch money every day and track your money every day, and you made wiser decisions with it, you're going to end up with more money to work with than a person who doesn't look at that and just think, I'm just waiting for the windfall.
And the reverse of that is true too. Those same little things, little deficits from your situation erode over time.
Right.
So,
the compound effect of proactively doing things and the compound effect of not doing something works anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It works anyway. When you introduce nuggets of success on a regular basis, if you go walking every day for a couple of miles, just every day, rain, sleet, or snow, I'm going to get my couple of miles in, and you do that every day for the rest of your life, that's going to get you further than the person who shows up in January for New Year's resolution, does it for a couple of weeks real hard at the gym for about, I'm going to give you 3 months. You do it to the spring. And then all of a sudden life gets in the way and you stop. You're starting and stopping and all this bravado and the new gym clothes and the new gym membership and all of that kind of stuff, all that bravado that you do for 3 months once a year, you're not going to add up to the compound effect of a person who does it the 2 miles every day as a habit. They're going to beat you. It's kind of the tortoise and the hare type of deal, So my point is that a lot of things that we're going to be talking about when we talk about officer development, things like that, is how do I do little things every day, whether it's my personal life or here what I do at the Firehouse. How do those little things I do every day compound into a successful organization? That's the discipline. That's the discipline. And that discipline is hard because we tend to think, and I do it too. That's why I said we, because it's not a mad thing I've mastered. It's a thing that I continue to work on mastering. But how many times do we say, well, this won't hurt, or this little thing won't make a big difference? But do that over a period of time. It's like I was talking about people gaining weight. If you are not the weight you want to be, you're bigger than you want to be. That didn't happen overnight, unless you just got some medical issue that's been happening since you was a kid and you never could lose in the first place. But I'm talking about people who used to be a healthy weight and now they find themselves not. That didn't happen. You didn't wake up one morning and say, "Oh, man, I can't fit my pajamas no more because last night I went to bed, I was this weight and now I'm this weight." It didn't happen like that. Compound over time. Little things that you didn't do or did too much of on the other direction added up to where you are now. So if you want to change that, you're going to have to make these incremental changes on the other side of that. You're going to have to watch what you eat. You're going to have to have more activity, more activity with your limbs and all that kind of. I find myself right now, I said what I want to add to my routine, just do more stretching. It's just the fact that I don't stretch enough. I'm like, oh boy, that's different than I remember or whatever, And why? Because over time, compounded of not stretching and doing those type of deals has led to you getting older and your muscle, your limbs are getting stiffer. So if you make sure that every day you do some kind of stretch or just simple, some kind of stretch or breathing. Then you go into the rest of your life a little more limber than maybe your counterpart who didn't do it, because the natural aging process is not being countered by the things that you do, So things like it makes a whole, like I say, a whole firefighter, a whole person, period, which entails whatever profession you do, it affects that profession,
100%.
Real quick, David, I know we've been talking about what your personal self brings to the table, but your personal self bringing it to the table, if you're a firefighter, we all work with teams. You got to, because it's a team of firefighters we work with. And I know in All In, you talked about a lot of those team building nuggets that we discussed at FDIC and other places we've done All In. Kind of tie in as we start to wrap things up, to kind of tie in where that personal leadership that just dominated the conversation with my aspect of it, but tied in to how that that can make a stronger team and make All In a very rewarding team to be a part of.
Sure. Well, there are a couple layers to that thinking. Number one, let's just use a football analogy. If you are trying to be the best quarterback you can be, make sure that you got, good scrambles, you can make good decisions on receivers. You can throw the ball 100 yards with pinpoint accuracy, all that. That's wonderful, but it won't really help you as a team if you get on a team where nobody can catch the ball you throw. So just like you make yourself better at throwing, somebody also has to be making themselves the best receiver. And so their natural leaning may be to, outrun a defender and to, jump higher, or to keep their eye on the ball and hand-eye coordination enough to, do some basic to super impossible death-defying catches that then enable you to do some very, masterful things that moves the ball down the field and into the end zone. You need all of that. But in the meantime, you also need people blocking that quarterback. You also need people that help to create holes and openings and opportunities for that receiver, or holes and openings for a good running back. Everybody has to be kind of operating at optimum in their position to make that team able to have the ability to create a great offense that gets that ball down the field, and then to create a great defense to keep the other team from doing that. So I'm making that parallel to say it's one thing and very important building block to improve your personal leadership and your personal integrity and your personal work ethic and your personal expertise. But the idea, the notion is that everybody on the team will individually do that. They will identify what talents, therefore what positions you should occupy or are more likely to occupy that helps the team better. And then everybody blends those expertises into one, very solid, cohesive, efficient, and effective team. And that's kind of the essence of an all-in sort of mentality, is about identifying what it is I'm good at versus what it is you're good at, and how can we blend those things in any emergency situation or just on a team period that makes us as a group perform better, as opposed to just doing jobs because there are jobs to do. And sometimes that's necessary. I'm not saying don't try to make sure that things get done, but you start working smarter, not harder. You end up figuring out how to apply talents, the right talent to the right job or the right task to create the desired outcome. Now, how do you do that? Part of how you do that is by getting to know your team, by uh, thinking about things from a mutual victory standpoint, by empathetically listening to yourself and others, by identifying strengths and areas of opportunity to see how we can blend my strength with your strength, how we can increase my vocational IQ by helping me to learn different things about the job and about certain things that I did not know that maybe I can get better at. I may not be as good as you and vice versa, but I can get better at it. So any weakness I had in that area gets showed up. How do we do that? Number one, how do I do that as just a firefighter who has not ascended to company officer level or command level? But then, particularly once I've ascended to any of those levels, how do I uh, identify those things within my team members so that I can deploy them in the most efficient and effective way possible to get the things done that we all know need to be done per the SOGs or per the circumstances of the situation. And so when you're able to sort of master that and get that together, it really does create a better atmosphere for everybody. Team morale goes up, all of that, because people have a lot more pride in the job they do, that they lean more into anyway, or that lean more into their natural gifts. And so it's just, it tends to be, studies even show a better situation all the way around. So that's kind of what that all in mentality is about.
Yes, so like you said, everybody understands what your gift is. You develop that gift with, your integrity and personal leadership, personal responsibility. And then you bring that gift to a table with other people doing the same thing, and you can't help but have an all-in A team. And those are things we kind of brought up at our class at FDIC, did the 4-hour one. And so, if you didn't make it, check us out. You can get us to come into your town. We'll be happy to do it for you at your particular agency. Make it a big party, grab other agencies to join you. And then you don't have to wait till FDIC next year to see a version of this. And it may not be the exact version you see this year, because we get new revelations every year. We add more stuff. We take away some things that we think that, and replace with things that could be said better. So definitely, if you sat in the class this year or you want to hear more of it, you come back and just remember your notes you took this year, because you can add that to the new notes that you're going to have next year, because David and I are forever growing, and with our growth, new revelations, and new revelations means that we don't reinvent the wheel, but we just constantly improve what we're already doing. And I'm really appreciate that about our vision and our partnership and things we've learned from people who have mentored us in this crazy business of instructing. As we wrap up, I want to wrap up acknowledging a few things. One of the things this past weekend marks 23 years since the St. Louis Fire Department lost Derek Morton and Rob Morrison. And you might have heard Bobby talk about that when he did the opening for the keynote and access. He references that, but even more important that the St. Louis Fire Department continues to remember these two fallen heroes that died in a warehouse fire. And it changed a lot of policies on how we did things on the St. Louis Fire Department. We lost two great people. I knew Rob and Derek. I knew Derek a lot better than I knew Rob, but it definitely was a great loss to our family on the St. Louis Fire Department. And so with this being May 2nd and May 3rd weekend, this past weekend was a time of remembrance for all of us who were on the fire, not only on the fire ground when it happened, but just in the fire service, fire department, period, and realizing that our fire department, as we knew it, would never be the same without Derek and Rob. So continue prayers to their families. It's weird to see like Darius' kids are like grown now and like doing stuff. They were little kids when we used to stay and watch at his house back in the day, right after the death. But man, just to see his kids grown and striving, thriving, and doing things is a great thing to see. So anyway, continued prayers to the Morris and Martin family in the great loss that not only their family personally suffered, but we suffered as a department on the St. Louis City Fire Department. All you gotta do is say city. Everybody know what you're talking about. City. And one of the things that we had this past FDIC too was I got a great email from one of the participants, and it's cool. His name is Scott Goodwin. He's the fire chief in Tool River Indian Tribe of California. I'm assuming that's like a Indian reservation, which is kind of cool because it's something that I think in theory, but you don't think about it until somebody bring it to your attention, But he sent a nice email talking about how he was in our class at FDIC, and he remembered and wrote down the elements that we talked about with the Empower model, and said he ended up using the skills in his when he got back home to his leadership team, and had some success with the buy-in, and he wanted to continue to perfect and practice it. So, hey, thanks for the email on that, Scott. And we over the years got some great feedback, emails, inboxes, if you will, and just letting us know how we've really helped people with our Empower model. So you want to know more about that, go to www.gluenationldc.com and learn more about it. Our contact information on there, so you want to know more about it, let us know. It's going to be one of the elements that we're going to be doing in our brand new officer development training program. It continues to be the foundational source of all the classes that we do. And the Empower model works. And like I said, I have to visit it often, a lot of times daily, to get me through some of the challenges I've been going through lately, personally and professionally. So, check it out. Let us know what you think. Yeah. Another place we'll be pretty soon, a couple of weeks coming up, is the Carl Holmes EDI down in New Orleans, Louisiana. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because we got word the other day, it's sold out. Sold out. Wow. There's no more room in the inn. Sold out. A bunch of people going to be coming down and learning all they need to know about EDI stands for Executive Development Institute, and all the things you need to know about, wanting to level up, wanting to be a effective leader in your organization, and everything you need to know about promotions, upward mobility, and different practices it takes to be a successful firefighter. Dr. Holmes, of course, was a legend in the fire service, recognized all over the fire service as a legend. And not only, being a trailblazer in Oklahoma City Fire Department, but Dr. Holmes got his doctorate before Wikipedia, you can't use Wikipedia reference, but for Google or any other quick reference, and computers and cut and paste and all that, he was getting that PhD, like click, click, click on that. Might not even been electric, just click, 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 and writing things. Kids, we used to call this longhand back in the day, where you just wrote your papers out, and when you wrote your papers out, you had to turn that in. So that's when Dr. Holmes, being a trailblazer brother from back in the day, got a lot of notoriety in his teachings, and then turned those teachings into the little force we call the Dr. Carl Holmes Executive Development Institute. So that's going to be happening in June 1st through the 7th, 2025, down at Dillard University. We've been going down there, I guess, well over 10 years now, helping one of our classes. Two of our classes is just one of the staples in that in teaching, inspiring officers what they need to do to level up when they get back. and it's a commitment, multi-year commitment. And when they go down there for year after year to make sure that they go through each mod and get what they need and graduate at the end, they've equipped, and a lot of people have a lot of great testimonies based on Dr. Holmes' vision, and it's helped them run departments and run divisions and just run things back in their respective departments. So always glad to be a part of that teaching cadre. Always glad to network with the group of outstanding firefighters from around the country. And in some cases, they came from overseas to Africa to converge on New Orleans for that week to get classes every day. And then at night, we get a night session from 7 to 9, so you're going to get your full dose of what you need. And not to mention, it's on the historic Dillard University campus. And the good thing about that is that you get to stay on campus and you get 3 meals a day, all for the price of the course. So that's what's cool too. You don't have to, you can go to New Orleans broke with no money, and you're going to have a place to sleep and something to eat. And even more, you're going to be fed all this knowledge from great instructors from across the country. I'm proud to be just as part of them as I'm proud to be part of the FDIC instructor cadre. But these great instructors are going to show you what you need to do to level up in your respective departments. So, and who knows, we might have to work on this, David, and getting a smaller version of our officer development program to submit there one day, and add that to the curriculum. So we'll see how that works out. Some way now, I'm just throwing it there because I like to throw it out and make it happen. It was said from my mouth to God's ears, but we can help develop that. So anyway, sold out. I mean, I'm not saying if you're interested, go to the website or the social media page and maybe get put on a waiting list at this late date. But I'm just telling you, as of now, talked to Chief Eddie Burns yesterday. It's sold out. I mean, a lot of people want to learn and level up on their job. So sold out. So glad to be going down and talk to this sold out crowd about what it takes to do better, even better on their jobs. So I think that's all I had in my notes to cover. I just wanted to have a recap of what we experienced at FDIC, let what's yet to come, have this great discussion about, hopefully you didn't get too bored with my thoughts on this foundational, how important it is for this foundational training, not just to be about tactics and leadership tools, if you will, and all that kind of stuff. How can we continue to make all of us better people? Because firefighters are people. I always tell people we're in the people business. We just happen to have a special set of skills. So it's not so skills driven, people deficit, so to speak. And how we feel about ourselves helps determine how we feel about those we serve as well.
100%. Yeah.
Like yourself, you're probably going to not like the people you're working with. Another thing, one last thing too, that the reason integrity is so important is because you don't get to work with everybody who thinks about the same political construct you have, or the social construct you have, or the same history, or come from the same background and thing. You don't get to pick and choose that. And then that's the great thing about the melting pot of the fire service. So what you learn there is a microcosm of what you have to deal with in the respective communities. And if you don't do that, bring that kind of integrity to the table and respect other people who got different viewpoints and different constructs. Just like I always say, if I can't trust you in the firehouse with the people you do know, how am I going to trust you in the street with the people you don't know? So we have to constantly work on that because we're constantly being divided by news media, by social media, by all kind of things that separate us. and let us concentrate more on what we have don't have in common than what we do have in common.
Mm-hmm.
We need to really double down on what we do have in common, and then respect what we don't have in common, and then don't let that affect us when we hit these streets. Because at the end of the day, when they call for emergency services, they expect a well-oiled, synergized team to show up and take care of business. And we can't do that if we got our lack of integrity and our lack of integrity with each other as a team. And don't think that all of a sudden the hero music is going to kick in and you just turn into that person. It's got to be practiced in the downtime, just like training. You can't not train and think the hero music kick in. Everything you haven't trained in is just naturally going to come. Your habits are going to come to pass. If your habits aren't honed in training, if your personal integrity and personal leadership is not honed in the downtime, you're gambling with thinking it's going to show up when it's go time.
Mm-hmm.
And go time ain't no time to find it out.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, those are the things we talk about. When you get the Conley brothers in, that's what we talk about. You don't want to look in that mirror. You don't want to get yourself together. Don't come to the class. No, please come. You need the class. But I'm just saying, if you come in thinking you just going to get some cookie cutter lecture that talks about, the techniques.
How to deal with them.
Deal with them, or deal with Joe, or deal with the person, on the other shift, you're going to be disappointed because we're going to make you look in the mirror. And the reason we make you look in the mirror because Dave and I have to look in our mirror every day, like Mr. Rogers. Hi, I'm Larry. A romper room. I see Larry. I see David. I see myself. I see me. I see myself. I see I. And I have to deal with you every day, every hour, every minute. And if I don't, then I can't be effective for the people that I don't know I'm going to meet on my job or in the community, period. So let's continue to look at ourselves. And I'm telling you this because that's what Uncle Larry does every day. So anyway, thanks for coming out. Thanks for rocking with us on this episode. We're going to see you in about 7 weeks on another great episode. And we'll have, if everything goes right, we're going to have some very interesting guests talking about some very real topics that we need to all be dealing with so we can help save ourselves and save each other and have some courageous conversations going forward. So I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to some healing. So if you're looking forward to some healing, tune in next time. And we'll see you out there in the streets. Be safe. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Be safe. Bye-bye.
This podcast is brought to you by Firehouse Subs, the firefighter-founded hot sub chain with a passion for hearty and flavorful food, heartfelt service, and public safety. Ready for your next mission? Firehouse Subs is offering firefighters the opportunity to continue serving after service, now as restaurant owners. Learn more at firehousesubsfranchising.com